Two friends went cave diving on a summer Saturday and already had a successful dive. But on their way out of the deep waters, the diver in the lead lost sight of his friend. Would he ever see his friend alive again? El Dudu Lagoon is a beautiful natural spot in the Dominican Republic, about 100 miles from Santo Domingo. It's basically a large hole in the ground surrounded by scenic views. There's an easy-to-use cement staircase that leads down to the water. The left side of the lagoon is great for swimming, and as you explore, you'll find a long tunnel and a cavern. The tunnel extends about 328 feet and opens into a large area about 154 feet inside. The first part of the cavern features a tall and wide tunnel with dark, stained rock formations. One of the columns inside is over 49 feet tall. The lagoon's deepest point reaches about 66 feet, and at the end of the main tunnel, there's a steep 20-foot slope. At the top, the path splits. To the right, there's an air pocket, though you can't exit from there. And to the left, the cave continues, offering more to explore. As you continue through the main tunnel, the cave starts to narrow, and you'll come across a section with strange, dark stalactites, making the dive even more interesting. Eventually, the tunnel opens up again, but you'll notice that there aren't as many rock formations in this part. The depth also becomes shallower, staying about 20 to 23 feet. After about 45 minutes of exploring, you reach the end of the tunnel, which leads to another entrance called Cueva de Lily. While you can exit here, it's not the easiest way out. On your return, you could swim around the left side of the sinkhole and explore the cavern area, where two more tunnels lead to a third entrance, Pozo de los Caballos, before heading back to the original stairs. This underwater adventure draws cave explorers from across the island to explore its winding paths, although it's important to be cautious, as these dives can sometimes lead to unexpected challenges or even accidents. One summer Saturday, around midday, three friends, Dave Herbert, Sam McCarthy, and Max Lewis, headed to El Dudu Lagoon. Of the group, only Max wasn't a cave diver, so while Dave and Sam came equipped to dive, Max was just there to enjoy a swim in the lagoon's refreshing waters. After getting into their gear, Dave, the more experienced diver, led the way as they started their underwater adventure. They descended into the lagoon and eventually reached the entrance to the cave system. Pushing through narrow passages and even passing a clear warning sign, they found themselves in a massive tunnel filled with pillars, stalagmites, and stalactites that seemed to stretch endlessly. As they ventured deeper, Dave and Sam arrived at a large open chamber inside the cave, where they found a valuable air pocket. They continued their dive, aiming to reach the end of the cave system in about 45 minutes, which was their goal. Along the way, they navigated through a narrow side passage, a tricky spot where they had to be extra cautious to avoid getting stuck. As they ventured deeper, the cave became even tighter and more confined than when they began. Despite these challenges, they pushed forward, excited to reach their destination in El Dudu. Eventually, they came across another exit called Cueva de Lily, where the cave revealed a surprising world of bats, tarantulas, scorpions, and snakes. However, sticking to their original plan to return the same way, Dave and Sam signaled to each other, turned around, and began their ascent back to the surface, with Sam leading the way. Dave was in awe of the breathtaking sights around him, and with Sam still leading, they pressed on. Every so often, Sam would glance back at Dave to make sure he was okay and following closely. Dave would respond with a thumbs up, letting Sam know everything was fine. Confident in their progress, they continued on their dive. They made sure to check their oxygen levels regularly and still had plenty of air left for a safe ascent. At this point, the idea of something going wrong didn't even cross their minds. They were simply focused on finding their way out of the cave system. Sam stayed in front, leading them through the familiar path, carefully navigating the narrow passageways. As they approached the side passage, Sam went ahead first and waited for Dave on the other side. But as the minutes passed, Sam noticed something was off. Dave was taking longer than expected. Initially, Sam tried to stay calm, thinking maybe Dave was just moving a bit slower. But after a few more minutes with no sign of Dave, Sam's worry began to grow. Hoping everything was still okay, Sam decided to swim back into the side passage to check on Dave. But when he reached the other side, he found something unexpected. Dave was nowhere to be seen. Sam scanned the area, but it seemed as though Dave had vanished into the cave. Meanwhile, without Sam knowing, Dave had run into trouble. On his way through the side passage, he got caught on a loose guideline, which slowed him down. It took him a while to untangle himself, but in the process, he accidentally stirred up a cloud of silt from the cave floor. This made the water around him murky, and visibility quickly became poor. The clear path he had been following disappeared into a haze of particles, and before he knew it, Dave had lost his way inside the cave. This was one situation they hadn't anticipated on their adventure. To make matters worse, their oxygen supplies were getting low. Dave checked his gauge and saw that his air was running out. The realization hit him hard, and panic started to set in. For a moment, he felt the rising fear of being trapped underwater with limited air. But Dave quickly reminded himself that panicking would only waste more oxygen and cloud his thinking. He had to stay calm if he was going to survive. Though disoriented and unsure of which way to go, Dave remembered his training. As an experienced diver, he knew that caves often had small pockets of air near the top. Moving carefully, he swam toward the ceiling of the cave, hoping to find a safe spot. After some searching, he found a small indentation where he could reach up and take a few shallow breaths. Though it wasn't much, the air pocket gave him a bit of hope. Now, alone in the cave with only the faint glow of his dive light, Dave crouched in the ceiling nook, trying to figure out his next move. He hoped that Sam would realize something was wrong and come looking for him, or that he'd somehow be able to find his way out of the cave system. For now, all he could do was wait, knowing his air supply was critically low, but clinging to the hope of survival. Meanwhile, when Sam didn't see Dave behind him, he made his way back to the surface, assuming that Dave had taken a different exit and was probably racing him out of the cave. As Sam broke through the water, he saw Max waiting anxiously. Max was clearly panicking because they had gone well past their planned dive time, and the thought of something bad happening inside the cave was eating away at him. Sam, who had thought he was the last one to emerge from the water, was shocked when Max told him that he was actually the first to make it out. Immediately, Sam knew something must have gone wrong. Dave was still down there. Sam's first instinct was to dive back in and search for his friend. His mind raced with the need to do something, but he quickly realized that it wasn't a smart or safe move. He only had about an hour of oxygen left in his tank, which wasn't nearly enough for a proper search. Worse yet, there was no rescue line to guide him back through the cave, and his suit wasn't equipped with helmet lights, making it almost impossible to navigate in the darkness of the cave system. Given these serious limitations, Sam knew that attempting a rescue on his own would not only be dangerous, but could also result in two divers getting lost or stuck in the cave. He had to think rationally and quickly. As much as he wanted to go after Dave, Sam understood he couldn't help him on his own. A successful rescue operation would require proper equipment, a clear plan, and experienced cave divers who knew how to handle these kinds of emergencies. Fortunately for them, an experienced cave diver named Stone was nearby. Noticing their panic, he approached and quickly learned that their friend Dave was still down in the water. Stone asked if Dave had full diving gear and if he was a certified cave diver. When they confirmed that he was, it gave Stone a little bit of hope. However, he knew if nothing was done soon, things could take a tragic turn. Without wasting time, Stone ran to get his friend Ken, who was also an experienced cave diver. Stone explained the situation to him, saying that a diver was stuck inside the cave and needed immediate help. He also told the others to call 911, while he and Ken quickly suited up and headed for the water to begin the rescue. At this point, Dave's oxygen supply was down to about 50 minutes, but Stone and Ken knew that in a situation like this, anxiety could cause Dave to hyperventilate. Hyperventilation is when someone starts breathing too fast or too deeply because they're anxious or panicking. This would make Dave use up his remaining oxygen much faster than normal, adding even more urgency to the rescue. It had been about 25 minutes since they started looking for help. The bubbles coming from inside the cave had become weaker, a sign to the rescue divers that Dave was running out of energy. A few years before, Stone had mapped out this cave during one of his explorations, so he knew the layout well. He also remembered a tunnel that led to an air pocket nearby. Stone and Ken quickly entered the water and swam into the tunnel, hoping to find Dave. Luckily, their instincts were right. They found Dave exactly where Stone had predicted, clinging to the ceiling of the cave. He was weak, but alive. They quickly revived him with a purge gauge and pulled him out of the cave. Once they reached the surface, it became clear that Dave's condition was serious. Both of his lungs had collapsed. The people waiting on the surface immediately began performing CPR on him. They worked to flush the water from his system, and after a tense moment, Dave started breathing again. Dave was rushed to a nearby hospital, where he was placed in a hyperbaric chamber to reinflate his lungs. His friends and family were terrified at the possibility of him suffering permanent brain damage from the ordeal. Thankfully, Dave survived the traumatic experience and made a full recovery. However, he made a promise to himself and everyone around him that he would never go cave diving again. We would like to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed watching, take a dive on the like and subscribe buttons and hit the bell icon so you get notified when we come back with another exciting cave diving story.